pleasure to do this fireside chat with Mithun. I have done one earlier in another instance, but today the topic is building a great brand. And as you all know, Mithun built Carat Lane, and it was a real unicorn, not the type of unicorns which get created and then vanish. And today it's on to much bigger things. While CaratLane is on to much bigger things, so is Mithun, and that's what makes this conversation very, very interesting, because CaratLane was one company, but Mithun is now on to building multiple brands, and that's what we are going to talk to him about. First, a little bit about CaratLane, Mithun. How did you get the idea of CaratLane? Because you already had a family business which had a brand. Where was the thought?
First thing, Shyam, thank you once again. And any time with you is always learning for me, so I almost never say no to anything that you want time with me for. So, I was young and I wanted to sort of build different things, and I was curious also at the same time. CaratLane was a culmination of many things happening in my life at that time. I wanted to build something large. I was in a family business which taught me skill set, which is jewelry manufacturing and retailing. These skill sets I learned from the family business, but it never had the legs to become very large. So I think the recognition of that sort of helped me. I felt, and when you're in your 20s, you're a little arrogant as well also. I felt I was the best jeweler in terms of making jewelry. But I could not reach enough people because I was only trying to sell high-end in the family business. So I felt I must take my craft to a lot more people. The internet was a place which was buzzing, and somebody who moved from Bombay to Chennai to build a business, I was spending a lot of time on the internet. I didn't have enough friends here, and second, my friends who were in Bombay, the communication was happening through the internet as well. So I got very well versed with it very early as well also. Commerce also started very early for me over there. So the internet seemed like a medium where I could reach a lot more people than what my shops were able to reach at that point. So I took the skill set my parents trained me for. I found a market the world was moving towards, and I belonged to that consumer set who possibly would buy CaratLane. So the triangulation of three things happened, and that's how. And I think the biggest part in all of this is that when you're young, you really can build. You don't think so much about risk. Like I think a lot about risk now, and then I didn't think about risk.
So what was the initial capital that you put in? What is the starting capital of CaratLane?
So it was a family business, and I wish we could have put more capital, but we did not. And the total capital that the family and I agreed, and it's a very interesting thing in a family, you have to agree. Your parents don't want to see you lose. They don't care if you don't win, but they're more worried that you should not lose. And so in that context, we agreed that 4 years of my time and 75 lakhs of money, and maybe 1 crore up to we would have gone. If I can invest that and make something, it's great. Otherwise, I'll come back and sit in the counter in the shop. And so that is the total capital that went from the family in the business, 75 lakh rupees.
And then you went out to investors. How did the investors initially react to the idea?
It was very difficult, frankly. They all thought it was too early. It won't make sense. We're talking about 2010, 11, so you can't blame them either also. So a lot of naysayers on it, but they would always, the one thing about investors and seasoned professional investors is they'll never say no to you because they always want to get information from you. And so they would tell you, good progress, come back next month. And that lollipop keeps moving forward and forward. And so for a couple of years, I kept going every Monday to Bombay. At least every other Monday to Bombay or Bangalore, because that's where the VC ecosystem was, trying to get myself going.
What are the first tranche that you got from investors as capital?
So my ask was $1 million, for which I would go to Bombay and to Bangalore. And I would not get the $1 million after. And then just like in 2011 Jan, I remember, a fund called Nexus said, okay, we like your business. Next month, we'll issue you a term sheet. And that also felt like a great idea. Like somebody next month might issue something like that. But so happened that the landscape of Indian e-commerce changed in the beginning of 2011, end of 2010, because a gentleman called Lee Fixel, who built Tiger Global, decided to focus on India. He found a set of companies, wrote to all of us via LinkedIn, approached us, and then decided what capital each one needed to actually make it sustainable. $1 million would have not taken me anywhere.
Okay.
But I had no understanding of that part. And he made sure that I take $6 million, and that would basically become the fuel for CaratLane to get built out.
So Tiger Global gave you the first big capital.
Tiger Global gave me that.
And then the transition to the Tatas, how did that happen?
Somewhere along, as the time went by, I realized that what we started out to build was a tech-enabled business. And my own common sense of spending time with consumers, I realized there is no such thing as a tech-enabled consumer business. Technology is a horizontal layer like marketing. But when it's new, you glorify it too much. And I realized by 2015 that the only role technology should play is that it should be like magic. It should make things happen but stay invisible. So Tiger Global had a tech fund, and we were not really sure, they were not really sure whether this omni-channel thing will work out or not. But it was paying dividends to us. Our first 13 stores, we really did well. And so we realized that it's better we get them an exit so that we can build for perpetuity. And that's how, and Titan had always looked at us very closely. We had a B2B relationship with them. And Bhaskar Bhatt, who was the MD of Titan then, possibly one of the greatest humans I have met, he really spent time with us, and he felt like this is like how Titan was 20 years back when he started out. And so he made a decision over that night that I want to get into this as well also. So that's really, it was him more than me being able to convince him. Because I went to him from day one saying that please take, for 1 rupee, take 26%, but let me sell your product. So from that journey till, this happened this way.
Even after the Tatas came on board, you kept CaratLane separately. I mean,
Yes.
you were not really relying on the Tata branding on the consumer front.
Yeah.
It was more on the financing front and other things that you were able to leverage
Yes.
the Tata brand. Any reason why you didn't leverage it on the consumer front?
No, actually, we did have a little bit of leverage. CaratLane and Tanishq partnership would come through, but I will tell you that 25% of customers don't know that Tanishq is actually Titan on that part. They don't really get that. So, but I think the brand was getting built out, and one thing we over or underestimate, I don't know, whatever it is, that when you put a lot of retail storefront in this country, consumer trust really increases in the brand. When you do good transaction quality, consumer trust multiplies on that brand as well. And all that was going on really well. We could not leverage too much of Tata because it would upset the guys at Tanishq. And it would become a big problem internally to deal with, and your positive mindset, you want to build what you're doing, you feel confident about it. So we use them on the balance sheet side, but from the P&L, we sort of decided to build on our own.
Interestingly, you're coming back to omni-channel, where you're having stores facing society in different places. Since morning, we have been having this conversation where people have been talking about omni-channel again and again. Tell us something about what makes you believe so much about omni-channel over just physical or just tech. Why omni-channel? Because I think our industry is also in that same state. We are behind the curve, but we are moving towards omni-channel.
So if you think of the life of a human being, I don't know about this cohort, but I can tell you about the people that I spend time with. An average human now, by data published by Google, in India is spending 4.5 hours per day on the cell phone. So 4.5 hours in that cell phone and you're sleeping assuming 8 hours a day as well also. So 12 hours you're awake without a cell phone, 4 hours and 4 hours you're with a cell phone. Then there is the audience which is younger, my daughter's age, who are possibly 6 hours a day, 7 hours a day spending time digitally. Actually, Omni is, earlier, think of this latest controversy about work-life balance which is going on. Similarly, physical and virtual is not actually separate anymore. It is an assimilation of both these lives which is going on. So discovery has completely moved digital, and consumption might still stay physical. And that was our insight into that part, that people, when they spend that much time online, and the only way online can sustain itself is through advertising. What is getting advertised are all these products itself also. So people consume, do everything. Like an early sign of this is, if you had to buy a cell phone in 2010, 11, 12, you didn't go to a cell phone shop and decide, I want to buy an Apple or an Android. The Apple-Android decision is made in your house. You walk into the shop and then decide that in Android, maybe between Samsung and LG or whatever cell phones are there, I might decide over there. But the decision was made in your house in your research. So research had moved digital, and consumption in some categories stayed physical, in some categories had become digital entirely as well also on that. So that was the insight, and we built on that.
You literally built a category of jewelry of 20,000 to 1 lakh. That was a sweet spot that you built, which was a market that was waiting to be discovered, right? Tell us something about building a category. I mean, how do you spot a category? How do you build a category? And then how do you fit the brand to that category? Because all these three things have to come, they have to align, right? How did you do that? And what are the general challenges in doing this?
See, finding a category is a hypothesis. You must believe that certain things are going to happen, and that is why this category will get formed. What you cannot predict is timing. It will happen in 2 years, 4 years, 10 years, you cannot predict. So the capital that you have is fuel to sustain that time period as well also on that. But the hypothesis has to be yours, your ability to see a category and say, I can see it better than what somebody else is seeing. Right. Most people are not category builders when they are transaction focused. Like, if you were to only think about today and think of transactions today, you cannot build tomorrow. So if you have to have a mindset of building tomorrow to be able to do category focus or sunrise category work. One should never get caught up in market sizing. It's a fundamental mistake everybody does. I'll give you a classic example. Company I work very closely with, Titan, because of market sizing, never saw the opportunity in Titan I+. And here comes Lenskart, and it's 10 times the size today of Titan I+. Not 1 time, 2 times, 10 times the size of that, because they believe market will come up. So many people don't have vision, and rather don't wear glasses, but in a sample cohort of a city, 60% wear glasses. So how is it possible that in rural people don't wear glasses? That's the only simple analogy they had, and they went on to prove that hypothesis. But you should not get caught up in market sizing activities at all. It's a consultant sell-through.
You let the market decide.
But market will happen if your hypothesis will play out. You just don't know how long it will take. So that's the part on market sizing and how you enter a category and build a category as well. And every category building is like a step ladder. You take one step, one new thing you will do, it will see you some result, then you will plateau. One other new thing you will do, then you will plateau. Then another new thing you will do, you will plateau. So you have to accept that new steps have to be created all the time. There's a 10-foot, I keep saying this again and again, if there's a 10-foot problem, there's an 11-foot ladder. That's your job of continuously going out there and building as well. The last part on brand, frankly, I didn't do a great job. I wish I'd built a better brand than what I did on that. But to me, and maybe so I didn't put as many words in the mouth of the customer as I would like them to speak about my brand. Okay. That's why I say I didn't build a great brand itself. But the experience we provided, the product we created, the ability and reason why they kept coming back to us, we did a really good job in that. So we became a brand in that sense. But we did not make the customer speak the words we would want them to speak. Look at Indigo. It makes people say on time.
Correct.
We did not find that inciting. That would make people speak about on time as well also. And so many other categories are there.
So you're saying that in brand building, you must make the customer define the brand in his words very clearly.
Actually, you should define the brand and put the words in the customer's mouth.
That's what I meant.
So that he should be able to speak that. But for that, first, you should be able to speak the words.
Okay.
So I couldn't speak the words, and so I sort of lost out.
But interestingly, what I understand is that you, in the process of building CaratLane, you built culture. Like, people stayed with you right on your journey. You made ordinary people do extraordinary things in that process. And then you were celebrating people. Like I heard this story where you picked up a guy who just works as an office supporting staff, and then who was very good at what job he did. He was serving tea to people.
Yeah.
And then you made him the employee of the month and stuff like that. Tell us a little bit about the importance of culture in building an organization.
Massively important, most underrated, most underspoken. Organizations actually get this fundamentally wrong. They'll call people family, but they will still be willing to fire them. I've never understood those two things going together at all. I've never been able to fire a family member, but I think what really matters in all of this is to have true, honest conversation, follow gestalt when you speak to them, but at the same time, you should be able to have candor. The ability to speak to each other with candor, and the two things that really helped me is having candor, and the second is this book that I read, Socrates' Way, with Avnish made me read as well. It helps you ask the same question in a more meaningful manner than what it does otherwise. It allows everybody to not become defensive, but be able to open and say, we could have done this better, or what could we have done? Because that's what, I mean, the best manufacturing practices which you get to see in Tamil Nadu, and you can apply that to human, is Kaizen, right? You just need that little improvement every single day.
And it's a 30-year-old concept, at least in India. That's the beauty. I've been hearing it from the early 90s.
We just need that in every aspect of our business, whether it is retail, whether in our case it was digital. In digital, it's very simple. Can my click-through rate go up by 2% next month? Find me answers for that. That's all. Because what Google and Facebook do is keep telling you what the average is. The average actually is made up of 90% failures. People that will never make money in that. And then you think that you're doing a great job by being just above that curve as well. But you have to give up that and say, look at the top 10% only, which you'll never get the data for. And so you're only improving against your own self again and again and everything. So everything became about improving against your own self, and that conversation became most important. If people, I mean, we allowed people, if they want to take 2 years, you know, we were never able to create women workforce who was able to go into very high positions. First, our tenure was only 15 years, so it's not like we had a lot. But we were struggling that post-marriage, a lot of people were struggling to manage these things. So we allowed them to take, if they wanted, a couple of years of break in between. You know, slow down their pace, nothing else. And then come back once again with this whole thing and work, not because, but have candor and say that, look, this job then is going to be this. You can, when you come back, we'll value you from where you are as well also. But honestly have those conversations, because otherwise you're fooling yourself and the organization. So as much honesty as you can build in your conversations, I think it sort of helps. At the same time, do it with, you know, do it in a manner where you're able to ask questions to help, not point problems to, you know, that people become defensive.
After such a long journey, how did you decide or reconcile to selling the company you built? That's generally a difficult spot. You know, like most of us are not willing to let go of what we built.
No,
so how did that, I mean, can you, little bit, whatever you'd like to say about that? I'm not
No, I never wanted to sell. I'm very clear about that. Tata has forced my hand on it, and so I had to sell. But otherwise, I never wanted to sell.
So subsequent to selling in August 23, where roughly about 4,620 crores
Actually,
for...
November 27, 23.
Okay, November 27, fine. Okay, announcement, okay. November to now, it's barely 14 months. Today, you are into countless investments. I am not able to count the number of investments. Tell us a little bit about the new businesses that you are building. Let's start with, let's say, Oro.
Yeah. Oro actually started 3 years before CaratLane, before my CaratLane journey ended. It was a problem statement that jewelers have created. We have sold enough and more jewelry, but at the same time, we have not created fungibility around the jewelry. The only fungibility around gold is through pawnbrokers and even banks, but it's a pawnbroking mechanism in a bank where you have to deposit the gold and you lose access to it. Whereas if you had bought a house, an office, you could rent it to somebody, enjoy that benefit also, and be able to do that. So taking that as an insight, and considering how much gold is there in South India in people's households, I wanted to solve that problem. The longer tail of that problem is very simple, that I should be able to allow you to put your jewelry into lockers in banks, and 25% of that you should be able to remove and wear at any given point. So that means it doesn't feel like a pledge, it doesn't feel like a pawnbroking pledge at least. And at the same time, there's no stigma to it because you have full access to your jewelry.
Let's say I'm a self-employed person, entrepreneur, who doesn't have access to big loans. I have only jewelry given by parents. Let's say any woman will have jewelry like that. Any guy, any family will have jewelry. You're saying that we can go and put our jewelry inside your lockers in different pockets or whatever you create spaces, and 25% of that I can remove anytime I want to wear it, so that the world doesn't think my jewelry is gone. And I can choose which part of the 25% I can take out. And I also get access to capital, which means in the case of a pawnbroker, once the jewelry goes to him, or any other gold finance company, you cannot get it out. Here, the world won't know that you're
replacing internally itself with whatever jewelry that you have, because Nobody, and I've never met anybody who wears 100% of their jewelry and walks around. You'd be like, you'd be an advertisement for like Lalita jewelry or something like that, right? So that won't happen. But people wear 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces that they want to wear. Everything else is sitting in the locker. Now that jewelry which is sitting in the locker is of no use for anybody. And what the government also calls gold a dead asset because of that as well also. So I'm saying I'm going to create a very low cost line of credit against that because fully secured. And I'm going to provide that against it.
So what's the status of this business? How much has really...
So we've just got, an RBI approval for being able to do it from people's home. That's the first part.
Can you tell us a little bit about this people's home and what that regulation is and what you're changing there?
So the first regulation is that if you want to give gold loans, then the only regulation right now mandated by banks, you must go to a branch, get your gold appraised, leave it in the branch, take cash into your bank account and you leave. That's how it goes. Or you do this Muthoot Manappuram, you deposit with them and you sort of leave. They have a touchstone, they'll do this thing. At home means you're sitting in your house. We can come to your house, appraise this over there. You don't have to leave the house. The money will credit your account. Then we take the jewelry from you and we leave your house as well also. So that's what we do. That's the first step to doing this, long-term what we want to create as well. That business, we have done 1,000 crores AUM already now on that. Now you move forward, we are setting our first locker in Nungambakkam, we've set up the lockers. Now the first set of digital lockers, because we couldn't do that till now, and we'll have to go through one more clearance of RBI sandbox. The aim is that robotic lockers in which you put your jewelry as sleeves, and against each jewelry it goes through an automated process of appraisal, and whichever one you want to wear, because you can see the image of that, you can pull that out. The other three will keep moving your limits dynamically up and down on that one. So it's a dream, and I hope to make it happen because I feel like we created the problem as jewelers. It's our job to solve it.
So you're seeing the element of disruption in what you're doing. I'm going to go to the next one. You're not wearing a watch, neither am I, but you are invested in a business called Art of Time.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on luxury retailing in India?
Luxury retailing will always keep growing. I have no doubt about that. When I invested in the business 3 years back, it was 120 crores of revenue. 2 classmates of mine were building that business. They didn't have access to capital. I didn't have either, but I forward committed to that capital and I did it. The business 2 years forward is now this year going to do 300 crores of revenue, 10% EBITDA on that. There is this concept in the world called the foolish rich. There's a set of people who want to prove to the world that they have wealth and they have everything else, and they enjoy this. And I think, these handbags which sell for crazy prices, made here in Ambur, but sold in Plaza Vendome, and all of that. These are great businesses which are getting built around the world. And so these Swiss watches are made there, and then we are selling them locally across over here. So I think as long as there's irrationality in the world, we will have opportunities like this. So Ethos has done such a great job. It's a listed company that everybody knows. I feel that there is an opportunity to go even one scale higher than Ethos and do it because it will match the per capita growth of this country as well.
You're saying that the product market fit can be even better.
Can be significantly better. Okay. Today,
can you explain that?
So most retail shops are actually warehouses. They are shops in which products are lying. There is no experience anywhere. That lack of experience is what I define saying that when you change this, it will mean better product market fit. What it means is that person who buys it and the person who sells it both actually sell knowledge around that product. That becomes desire building as well. One is desire building and the other one is supporting desire as well. Today, all desire building in watches actually happens through advertising. And James Bond wearing it, or Aishwarya Rai wearing it, or somebody wearing that. To me, that's not longevity in itself also. The longevity is when you wear it and somebody says, nice watch, and I'm going to go across to you and say that, did you know that this watch actually tells me it has a material from, moon or something else like that, or something else. Whatever that makes you happy to talk about on that particular case.
So you're saying that even a product category like watches which seemingly are not really looking like futuristic businesses, there's still so much of scope to do more business and better business by improving customer experience.
Yeah, just think about it, that we've grown a business 3x Ethos has grown the business maybe 50% also in the same amount of time. And this is a category 5 years back we all wrote off. We said that wearables are going to take over this entire category and nothing will exist as well also at that point.
Correct. That was what was told to me
That
when
was
I
the
invested in a watch
narrative.
company.
In fact, the business that's grown the least in the last 2 years is
wearables.
actually Apple Watches in all of this.
While everybody has been looking at getting into manufacture of EV for personal commuting, branded bikes or cars and stuff like that, you have made an EV foray which is like quite interesting, into cold chain, into cement mixers, and into maybe even
Trucks coming up now.
trucks. Tell us something about it, how you got the idea and what differentiates that business from...
Actually, I would be wrong to say that the idea was mine. We were just building on an idea that belonged to Raval Sahab. N.K. Raval was the CEO of Electra. And so he had done the BYD tie-up for Electra as well also. Now, once he did the tie-up, and then BYD changed, Electra changed hands. It became a part of Mega Engineering. So he moved on from there, and in a conversation between him, me, and Madhukela and Yash, his nephew, it turned out that he would desire to get back into this, and we kept building on the hypothesis of why this, because they were making buses over there. So what we learned is that the biggest benefit of electric-powered vehicles comes, which is intuitive in a way as well, where the diesel consumption per kilometer is the worst. If you were to pick up which is the worst, any other application you do on top of a car is where it's going to be the worst. So refrigerated vans is like full-time cooling on. Cement mixers is a machine that's running all the time. So here your ROI will be significantly superior than everybody else. Now in India, there was this race going on to make buses, to make cars, to make everything else. So we thought that this is a niche where without a brand, we'll be able to start. And we started that business under his tutelage because he knew how to assemble and do everything and do that. But BYD saw this whole thing and they got very excited, and then, luck has to play such a large role in all our lives that at that point they were not able to set up in India. But they had done all this work of with JSW, with Adani and everybody else of saying how can the cement mixers work, how can all these things work. And so while our first product, a refrigerated van, was made by us, they came forward and said, look, we will supply these and you can set up the manufacturing here, because they have a very large CKD business, semi-knockdown business, etc. But we've solved for all this technology. So we take now we're working with them to bring part of their technology. We work with another battery manufacturer with who we have a JV for that as well also. So we're building state-of-the-art in all these things. BYD's name adds a lot of value as well also. Product category we chose is Sunrise. Nobody's solving EV in these spaces. Tamil Nadu certainly has trucks going on, but not the other ones as well. The challenge most people don't do that for, it's not that obvious, is because you're restricted by few customers. But for us, that few customers is a large enough business itself also. So it's a business we put seed capital at, I think, 100 crore value or something through personally and through Singularity, the platform that MK family runs. And now I think they're raising capital at 1,000 crores. So it's done a 10x in the last 1 year itself also. So, yeah.
How do you pick businesses? Because these all seem very, very differentiated from one another. Because now you're not only deploying a lot of capital, but you're also deploying significantly higher sums in each investment. And you're also deploying more number of investments. You're diversifying, So how do you choose businesses? What is it that you look for in a business when you want to invest in it?
No, I'm very clear my number is 10. I'll never be beyond 10 investments where I'll have large investments and do whatever. Till then, the money sits in mutual funds and etc. and all of that, all the right places where it should sit as well also. I don't have the bandwidth to understand more than 10 businesses. So I will not be able to do beyond that number of 10. 10 also is large, many people tell me, but I'm comfortable with that. Second, I have no need for money. And because I have no need for money, everything I deploy, I don't want anything that I will see fruits in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. I don't want to see fruits before 5 to 10 years on that. And because I don't want to see fruits for 5 to 10 years, there is no, one of the biggest worries in investing is that on a bad day, you feel tempted to press the button and exit at that point as well. Whereas in private investing or deep positions you take, you can't exit on that day at all, even if you want to as well. So I'm finding opportunities like that which work for me. And I only look at sunrise categories. It doesn't excite me to do categories which are not sunrise. Nazara is something we did 2 days back. I became a co-promoter in the company. I believe that consumer behavior is best understood now through gaming. Gamification is what we were doing in the store also as well. So it really goes well in that area. QSEV is another one. I feel electrification through applications is which incidentally run our motors is what is the way to think about it. Data centers, but not going after with a mindset of a hyperscaler or a colo, because that's a real estate mindset. I'm going after edge data, edge computing, because I want to create very small containerized data centers and sort of build that out. So I invested in Sterling Wilson DC to learn that business and doing that. And we bought 20% of that business so that we go deep into it. Otherwise, who's going to tell me? If I own 1%, nobody will talk to me also.
Correct.
On that. So each of these areas that I've identified, I'm going to go very deep into it and try and figure out. Hopefully, a few work out. If not, we just played Monopoly.
Some of the interesting takeaways that I want to just place before you. One thing is that when you extend your gestation, there are a lot of benefits. First, you give yourself time to succeed. Second, I think the competitive intensity of the people wanting to invest in such opportunities is also lower, which pretty much applies to all the things that we do for our investors and our clients. So if you're able to keep the client on a longer investment gestation, then you have an advantage, both in getting people and in keeping the right people with you on the journey.
And I've been on the other side of a lot of work that all of you do as well. Too many times, too early, wealth managers come to me and excite me saying, oh, we made 20% return and 30% return. Not realizing market will normalize you back once again on that. And that day becomes a very hard conversation itself also. So we shouldn't glorify too early either in life.
So how do you react to this concept where you put money in many businesses and then they do a round at a higher valuation, maybe 5x, 10x within 1 or 2 years? When you see those things happen, what is your mindset? How do you condition yourself? Because it's very exciting, no? Sometimes, let's say you put a small sum and then it becomes 10x in 1 year or 2 years. How do you condition yourself? What do you tell yourself when you see such success?
Actually, capital going into a business is an equity dilution for me. So I don't see that as a success metric at all. That a business will require capital, I look at, is this the last round or is it going to require capital again?
So that's flipping it on its head.
So
okay.
If it requires capital again, frankly, I want to exit that business. I don't want to be there for too long either also on that one. It was my learning from my own journey. Of the 340 crores of capital that went into CaratLane to create whatever, 17, 18,000 crores of value on that, 250 crores was wasted. The real capital that delivered was 150 crores maybe on that whole thing. I'm just rounding off numbers and saying that. So if I realized after wasting 250 crores that I did this, somebody else might realize without wasting any money, and somebody else might realize after wasting thousands of crores as well.
So you are saying that you are happier with the entrepreneur who realizes earlier and doesn't waste money, rather than be with an entrepreneur who's able to raise a lot of money and waste it.
So I don't want to be in businesses that can't design themselves to become asset light. I was telling you on my real estate play as well. I've converted that business into asset light. I've converted solar into asset light as well also. That's a mindset of ROCE that people need to have as well also. ROE more than anything else that people need to have. And that mindset is something that you've got to deploy in everything that you do as well also. Because low return on equity belongs to a different class of asset. Somebody was showing those charts earlier on that, the Mirai Capital one, where 75% is equity and 10-15% is going. That 10-15 should go into those assets. I belong to the 75 class. I'm 125% in equity of my 100% capital, meaning I'm borrowed to further go in equity also.
On that note, I want to thank you, Mithun, for your time. It's been deeply insightful again. And for me, it was interesting because it's a different conversation in a different context. And I'm sure that the next time we speak, you will have a lot more things to say, and it will be more learning for not only us, but also those who have been with us in this session. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.